That was a surprising season in many ways, people. Yeah. I'm kind of a little bit bummed that I stopped watching this season, even though I had my reasons for it. Yeah. So, let's dive into it, shall we? So, as I mentioned in my Big Brother 17 premiere video, I was kind of on these twists because I felt that they were good in some areas and not so great in others, but ultimately, the Big Brother takeover, it didn't actually really matter because for week one, it's just two people who are already going to be there anyway. Week two, it didn't really alter events that much, given, who was on the block and in power, etc. And then in Big Brother 3, that was just a gimmick. So the Big Brother takeover didn't do anything. I'm sure future twists would have really altered the way things were going on, but given the gameplay, Julie Chen in production wisely chose to stop it, so I'm real glad that they did. Although I could have sworn there was plans for Julie Chen to herself have a takeover. I wonder how that would have gone. I don't know. I saw that, while the season was airing. There's no way I could find that thing now. And then Battle of the Block. Well, I was proven right in my review for the last season that, they could actually keep this twist going, but now I think it's pretty obvious that Battle of the Block is always going to be, cover up, put the pawn up, and then backdoor them, so that kind of affects things, and also, as I stated, it makes the have and have not competitions be reduced to just choosing who gets, to be on slop. It's almost like, even though I kind of hate to say this, the Survivor auction. Given what's going on, I think you might have to phase that out, even though that does take away the survival element of the show, even though that has been gradually going less and less as time has gone on. Heck, Big Brother Canada still manages to mention this a little bit more. Although I can't really remember if they were chosen to be have-nots in that situation. Yeah. Not really the big fan of the choosing to be have-nots, that kind of thing, right? And then the twin twist. Well, I had been kind of missing having somebody in the house know somebody else in there, and I felt like this was a twist that they could use again, given how long it's been. Although I was a tiny bit bummed that they had it be, women again, but given how there were multiple people in the house that had a twin, you can kind of get away with it. And then given how the gameplay of that twist was introduced for this season, how it was used to people's advantage, how they truly were treated as separate entities, how they got farther along without shooting themselves in the foot, even though it can't be really done to argue that they did, yeah. I just felt like it worked out pretty well, so that's how I feel about that stuff. And then jumping into the actual contestants, with the exception of one person's edit, I think you can guess who, and then two people's behavior in terms of their relationships with each other, you can probably guess both of them. I felt like this was one of the better casts I've seen in a long time. Heck, I'll even argue that this is the best cast that I've seen after Big Brother 12, and yes, that includes Big Brother Canada 1, if you ask me, because this season just, it had good people, people who knew what they were doing, mattering in their own ways, giving us a good idea of what's on their mind, everybody trying to do stuff, everybody, trying to put their own stake in there. Not too many people were afraid to get blood on their hands, and many of the people who were afraid to get blood on their hands first actually did manage to do a good amount of stuff. Then we had people leaving for ways that you wouldn't really expect them to, because like Meg, towards the end she got highlighted as being very important, even though competition-wise she just sucked. And then Jason, that was a pretty interesting exit for him. Austin, both the time he almost left and then the time he did leave, that was interesting. What happened with Johnny Mac? Yeah, that was an interesting journey, although I'll get back to him in a second. And just what happened to a couple of other people, it was great. Just those people going at each other, and it was just, Yeah, congrats, people. You guys did good. I was very satisfied with this cast, minus the little bits that I'm going to get into. First of all, let's talk about the two people's behaviors that kind of got to me. I'm talking about Johnny Mac and Steven, because, like, neither of these two did a good job of cementing themselves, or at least the edit made it seem like they weren't cementing themselves. Now, I do know, that Johnny Mac was with James and company for a good while there, and then he went with Steven, and Steven, I did get the idea that even though he did like people on the other side, he did have a hint of more loyalty to Vanessa's group, and it did seem to, play out that way in my mind, because always did get the idea, that if it came down to it and he had a gun to his head, he probably would end up going with Vanessa's group, and it seemed like he did that at just about every opportunity, even though he did his best to avoid opportunities, But that did kind of irritate me, given how much everybody else was, doing that, because you can argue, as Dick was arguing in his early Dick at Night videos before I started watching this season did actually end up behaving a lot like Season 6, where you had the house really divide itself, a whole big group of power players on one side and a whole bunch of people that like each other on the other, and then they go at it. But the good thing was, this time, even though I was rooting more for the power players, I liked people on both sides, and even when the season was over, they were actually able to brush a lot of it off and just say, hey, it's a game, we did our parts, it turned out to be a nice season, and I'm glad about it. Like, I'd be one to strongly argue that this cast gets along with each other a lot better than the Season 6 cast did, because I got the idea once that season was over, there were a lot of people, real pissed at each other, although I'm sure that the public, wasn't too unhappy with the outcome, and I think that there's definitely a good amount of people that aren't too happy with the outcome here. Me, I'm kinda, for a reason that I'll get into later. That's the thing that I haven't really discussed here yet, but I don't feel like I can get into that directly without talking about the main crux of the season, which obviously is Vanessa. So the thing about Vanessa was that when the season started, there did seem to be a little bit of hype around her. I'm sure that there was hype around virtually everybody. Everybody had their own little bits of talking, but I know for a fact, if memory serves, either Dick or Dalton Ross actually put her as their pick to win, so I had been thinking that there was a good amount of possibilities with her, and then she started off a little slow, but as the season went on, you look at it, and then she goes, and then you're like, holy crap, like with Danielle from Season 3, she's just going at it, manipulating people, and even when she, like Dan, ended up getting more in the open, people were like, I can't touch her, oh no, I've got a more pressing target, I'm just going to take Vanessa, put her over here, maybe use her if I can, and just deal with everyone else. That was amazing. She got all that blood on her hands, it looked like things were going to turn against her, or people that were working with her, a lot of the time, because there were several moments that I felt like, oh man, it looks like things are looking bad for these groups of people, both on Vanessa's side and not, but ultimately in the end it did work out with them, because as I stated, I think this group of people really is okay with each other. And just how she managed to be partially responsible for almost every person that left in that game, and altering a few people's chances, along the way, like Liz, arguably Austin, arguably Steve, Meg, yeah, just, whoa, that was just an amazing game, like, I didn't feel like anybody could, live up to that kind of level of manipulation or recognition again on this show, and she did, and it was nice to actually see a female do that, because like you had Will, and then you had Danielle, even though Jason did help her out, and then after that Maggie, possibly. Then you had arguably Dick, but you could argue that was a little bit of luck involved. And then you had Dan, and then you arguably have Derek. So yeah, just whoa. I'm well done impressed with that game of hers. Although I do honestly think she did make a huge strategic error because, okay, many of you are going to argue that I'm wrong in my logic here, but this is what I think where she made her fatal flaw. Of course, hindsight being 2020. I feel like she actually should not have evicted Austin. I definitely feel like she should have evicted Steven when she had the chance, because given what happened in that competition, the HOH, my feeling is that Johnny Mac would have won the HOH, because I don't think Austin would have won. Liz still would have sucked, and I think Vanessa was behind Johnny Mac at the time. Yeah, she was. So yeah, John would have won the HOH, but I believe that Vanessa still would have won the veto, and then she would have evicted Austin, and then it probably would have been a little bit tougher for her to handle Johnny Mac at first, but I do believe she actually would have beaten Liz in worst case scenario for round 2 of that, so it would have been her versus Johnny Mac at the final HOH, which would have given her, I think, a little bit more possibility of the victory. So, you can argue I'm wrong here, absolutely, but that's the feel that I got, okay, after watching what eventually did go down, okay? Right. So I definitely feel like that's where she screwed up, although it seems like most people out there believe she would have won against either one of them, and I was totally shocked by that, because up until the finale, I was like, Vanessa has no chance, but after seeing what the jury did in the discussion to, was it Will or Ian? I honestly cannot remember who is the mentor for these jury discussions now. They change so often. Part of that is because I watch Big Brother Canada, so just... Yeah, but as I was watching that, I began to think, actually, it's Liz that doesn't have a shot at winning this. But, yeah, it seems like that she would have triumphed had she won that last HOH, even though she would have evicted Steve, which I think was definitely the right move for her, and it would have displayed the loyalty card, yeah. So congrats, Vanessa. Even though you didn't win, in many ways you kind of did, because people do recognize her as the best player that season, you know, so congrats to her. And then we've got the eventual final 2 that we end up with, well, we've got Steven triumphing over Liz, which I had begun to guess would happen, because he had been going through a little bit of a growing storyline, and even though his gameplay was a little more undercover, at the same time it was fairly clear, because you can never play a completely underwater game, and even though you can argue that Meg played underwater, I feel like she was a lot more clearer in her progression and what was going on with her than other people that were like her, such as Jamaica, Jerry from season 10, I hope I'm thinking of the right name there, and you know, a couple of other people. Right, so, okay, so I'm talking about Steven, yeah, so, now I suspected that he would triumph over Liz, so that was fine, but here's the main thing that I've got against Steven. I feel he is the worst represented winner in the history of Big Brother. Whoa, 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 whoa. What do I mean by that? Because here's the problem. You know how I was stating earlier that I felt like that I could get the progression of everybody in terms of picking sides except 2 people, even though I was more clear on Steven than Johnny Mac. But I also mentioned that I wasn't exactly clear on the edit for 1 person. Guess who I'm talking about? Steven, because there were several weeks where nothing was talked about for him, because like after he took himself off the block when Vanessa's group kept winning HOH after HOH after HOH, we heard like nothing from him for 3 straight rounds. Now, to be fair, many people argue that he wasn't really doing anything to begin with, even though, from what I've heard on the live feeds, he was doing a little bit more than what the edit was showing, but, like, based on his edit, it just, in my mind, it really sucked, because compared to everybody else, I couldn't do the step-by-step description of what was going on with him, as well as everybody else. Literally, I could do that for everybody else besides him. Now, I can't do that for other people in the past, but given the big gameplay that was happening this season, and the fact that he eventually won the season, the one person that I can't fully describe the journey, it hurts the season. And it seems like, based on things that Austin said, Johnny Mac said, and a couple of things that other people alluded to, there were things to see from him. You know? I think there's a few people who could argue that this was Cochran done right. Just, there was stuff to see from this guy in my mind, and he should have been better represented, but the fact that we didn't really get that from him ultimately makes his victory, in my mind, a lot less impactful for him than I think it should have been. Especially if you didn't watch the live feeds, yeah. This is one time when not watching the live feeds I think really came back to bite me. Yeah, so I was really liking this season, but then seeing the winner's edit, it really puts a big issue into this, because, like, I don't really want to criticize this, because I don't have anything against Steven. I felt like he was actually the better choice of the two people that were at the end, okay? Even though Liz was with more of the people that were controlling the game, but Steven was actually with them. It's just that he drifted slightly and happened to grab Johnny Mac along the way, so talking a while. Just that issue, man, that's the one issue I've got with this season, and I hate that, because Big Brother US finally got back on track, even though according to Evil Dick, it just goes straight down the gutter next season, and it's not Dick just being Dick, okay? He means it, I can tell, so, yeah. Whew. I don't really want to be in this position, but I am. It makes the rankings thing a little bit trickier to do it. So, yeah. Well, I think this video's gone on long enough. As I stated, this was actually a nice season, had tons of things that I wanted to see happen, and a winner that I actually am okay with, minus that edit bit, and this is a first for me in terms of Big Brother, because, as I stated, Steven is not a bad winner, but he is the worst represented winner out of, like, all of them. It's tough for me to really figure this guy out in his journey, even though there were things to see there. So it's disappointing. Check down below for my updated rankings, like with Survivor seasons, I changed them up, okay? My next video will be Big Brother Canada 4. I've already finished watching that, so you can see it, even though I'm not entirely happy with that video, but what can I do, huh? I just say what's on my mind, and you guys are free to enjoy it. Later.